The dining room smelled faintly of roasted chicken and old wood, yet the air was heavy, too heavy. I sat at the head of the table, 80 years old, my silver hair pinned neatly, my hands folded on my lap. My children sat across from me like judges about to deliver a verdict. Edward, my eldest, cleared his throat and slid a folder across the table. His voice was calm, rehearsed, but sharp as a knife. "Mom, it's time. You can't keep living alone. We've found a nursing home. Comfortable, safe, the best money can buy." Linda chimed in, her smile tight, almost mocking. "You'll have nurses around you, friends your age, activities every day. Isn't that better than rattling around in this big old house?" Their words were wrapped in sweetness, but the taste was bitter. I heard what they weren't saying. "You're no longer needed. You're in the way." I reached for my teacup, steady despite the storm rising in my chest. The porcelain clicked gently against the saucer. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. Because at 80, I had already learned the greatest secret of survival. Sometimes silence holds more power than shouting. And they didn't know I had prepared for this moment long before they ever dared to plan my exile. The conversation at the table no longer included me. It was as if I had already been erased, like a name crossed out from a ledger. Edward leaned back in his chair, confidence dripping from every word. "The nursing home has private rooms, Mother. You won't have to bother with bills or the upkeep of this house anymore. We'll handle all the finances from here on." Linda laughed softly, swirling the wine in her glass. "It's really for the best. At your age, paperwork must be exhausting. We'll make sure everything runs smoothly without you." Without me. The words stung, sharper than any winter wind. I kept my eyes on the candlelight flickering in the center of the table. Their voices grew distant, like echoes in a hallway, while I studied the flame. It trembled but never went out, just as I had trembled but endured through every trial life had thrown at me. Then, as if to twist the knife, Linda turned to her daughter, my granddaughter Nora. "Don't look so upset, Nora. Your grandmother will be around people her own age. She'll fit right in with the old folks." Nora's face flushed. "She's not some fragile antique you can put on a shelf. She raised this family, she built this home, and now you talk like she's a burden." Edward snapped, his tone final. "Enough, Nora, you don't understand adult decisions." The room fell into silence. My children smirked as if victory was already theirs. They mistook my quiet as weakness, as surrender. But inside, my heart whispered the truth. Let them believe I am powerless. The day will come when silence speaks louder than their schemes. The flicker of the candle pulled me backward, years, even decades. I was no longer the 80-year-old woman sitting in a dining room where my children plotted my exile. I was 65 again, standing beside my husband, William, in the study of this very house. Stacks of papers lay spread across his oak desk. He was pale then, his health already failing, but his eyes carried that same fire that had guided our family through every storm. He reached for my hand, his voice steady despite the weakness in his chest. "Martha," he said, "money can be stolen, companies can be taken, but love and foresight, those are harder to erase. We need to protect what matters." That night, under the dim light of a single lamp, we sat with our lawyer, Mr. Hughes. He explained a trust fund, something neither Edward nor Linda understood at the time. It would safeguard every acre of land, every savings account, every piece of our estate. But it would not be handed out blindly. The papers spelled it clearly. Inheritance would pass only to the child or grandchild who showed true care and loyalty in my final years. I remember William's weak smile as he signed. "This way, Martha, you'll never be at their mercy, and they'll learn that love isn't measured in dollars." When he passed, I kept the papers sealed, hidden deep within the safe behind the family portrait. And from that day forward, I paid the taxes, renewed the accounts, and quietly kept the trust alive. I never spoke of it. I let my children believe they were slowly taking control. Because I knew, one day, when their masks slipped, The truth I held in silence would speak louder than any of their plans. The following week, Edward and Linda arrived with papers in hand, glossy brochures of the nursing home, contracts already highlighted, and a pen placed neatly on top. Edward slid the stack toward me, his tone commanding but coated in false sweetness. "All we need, Mom, is your signature. Once you sign, everything will be handled. You'll be settled in before the month ends." Linda chimed in, her earrings catching the light as she leaned closer. "It's really the right thing. You'll thank us one day." I reached for my handbag resting beside my chair. My fingers brushed against the cool leather, not trembling this time, but steady, unyielding. Slowly, I drew out a sealed envelope, thick with documents, its edges worn from the years I had kept it hidden. The room stilled. "Mr. Hughes," I said softly. My lawyer, who had been waiting quietly in the corner, stepped forward. Edward frowned. "Why is he here?" Mr. Hughes cleared his throat and placed the envelope on the table. "Because before any contracts are signed, I have to remind you all of something. 20 years ago, your father and your mother created a legal trust." Linda's smile faltered. What trust?" He opened the envelope, revealing official seals and signatures. His voice carried the weight of finality. "The Ellison Trust Fund. It states in no uncertain terms that all family assets are held within this trust. The home, the accounts, the land, and there is one condition for inheritance." Edward's voice cracked with frustration. "What condition?" Hughes read slowly, each word striking like a gavel. "The inheritance will go only to the child or grandchild who provides genuine care for Mrs. Martha Ellison until her passing." The silence that followed was suffocating. Linda's hand froze on her wine glass. Edward's jaw clenched. I lifted my eyes at last, meeting theirs. "You thought you were sending me away, but the truth is you were sending yourselves away from everything you thought you owned." The candlelight flickered, and for the first time that evening it was not me who trembled, it was them. Edward shot up from his chair so fast it scraped against the hardwood floor. His face was crimson, his voice shaking with rage. "You tricked us, Mother. All these years, you let us carry the weight of the business while you, sat back and plotted against your own children." Linda's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp and bitter. "This is manipulation. After everything I've done managing the accounts, running errands, sacrificing my time, you reward us with humiliation." I set my teacup down gently, the porcelain clicking softly. My calmness only seemed to fuel their fury. "Sacrifice," I said, finally lifting my voice. "You didn't sacrifice. You calculated. You waited for my weakness, hoping to snatch what you never earned." Edward slammed his palm on the table. "This isn't fair." Before I could respond, Nora stood up, her young voice cutting through the storm like a bell. "Fair? You want to talk about fair? You plan to throw her into a nursing home like a piece of old furniture. I've watched her cook, clean, tend the garden, and still smile even when you ignored her. If anyone deserves her love and her trust, it's not you. It's someone who actually cares." Her words hung in the air, raw and trembling with truth. "Mr." Hughes adjusted his glasses, his tone steady, judicial. "The terms are binding. This trust is the law. It cannot be altered by anger, by pressure, or by entitlement." Edward's chest heaved, Linda's hands shook around her wine glass. I leaned forward, meeting both of their eyes, and spoke with the certainty of someone who had been underestimated for too long. "You see weakness when you look at me. But what you never understood is that true power doesn't shout. It waits and it watches. And when the time comes, it decides." The room went silent. For the first time in years, my children had nothing left to say. The storm of voices died out, leaving only the ticking of the old grandfather clock in the corner. Edward's shoulders slumped, his anger drained into silence. Linda stared into her glass, but even the wine seemed to mock her defeat. I rose slowly from my chair, my back straight, my voice calm. "You wanted to put me away, but it seems tonight it is you who must leave." Edward opened his mouth, but no words came. Linda gathered her papers, her hands trembling. One by one they pushed back their chairs and walked out, the sound of the front door shutting behind them like a gavel striking judgment. Nora remained by my side, her hand warm against mine. Her eyes shone with tears, not of fear but of loyalty. "Grandma, you'll never be alone, I promise." I smiled, pressing her hand gently. "It was never about the money, darling. It was about the truth. Wealth without love is nothing but dust." That evening, Mr. Hughes locked the trust documents safely away again, a silent reminder of the legacy secured. And I, Martha Ellison, stayed in my own home, the house I built with my husband, the garden I planted with my hands, the memories stitched into every wall. Not in a nursing home, not abandoned, but right where I belonged. As the night grew still, I poured myself another cup of tea and looked across the quiet room. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of peace instead of fear. They thought age meant weakness. They thought silence meant surrender. But silence, when chosen, can be the sharpest weapon of all. Lessons learned. 1. Real love can't be faked. Children may scheme for money, but in the end, only those who truly care deserve to inherit. Money is just the test. Love is the proof. 2. Silence can be stronger than shouting. Martha never argued or raised her voice. She had already prepared the trust fund. When revealed, her quiet strength spoke louder than her children's anger. 3. Age does not mean weakness. Seniors are often underestimated, but experience, patience, and foresight can turn into the sharpest weapons. 4. When family fails, the law protects. Martha didn't beg or cry. She let the legal papers speak. Justice came not through emotions, but through preparation and signatures. 5. The greatest inheritance isn't money, it's the lesson. Her children left in bitterness, but her granddaughter gained something priceless. Love, trust, and responsibility. Closing line for video. They thought age was a burden, but age can be a light. In the end, love is the only inheritance that truly lasts.